afternoon of the roots and immense benefits of yogic living, and how this ancient practice and its scriptures is still so relevant in today's world. Yoga asana is but a tiny piece in the vast science of yoga, and Jnandev will give us some insight into this and many more. So please give a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Well, to begin with, please do relax. I like to be friend, I like to be smiling. So you don't need to get caught into anything too serious. Even though the subject I got, thanks to Deepika there sitting in the corner, she always chooses these most difficult and critical subjects that you can, I guess, talk for months and months to really resolve some of the issues or come to any conclusion. But I will do my best to justify next 40-50 minutes to talk a little bit about the roots, and I will try to avoid talking too much on the modern history of yoga, because in my sort of understanding, I think the modern yoga does not really have much roots. It does not really have history. It has more what we call exploitation and manipulation, or sadly, if anything does not work in modern time, use yoga as a hashtag or the tagline and sell anything you want to sell. Even if your wine shop is not working, all you need to do tag yoga with wine and your pub will work. If your dog workshops are not working, all you need to do to sell your dogs, say yoga with dogs, and it will work. If you got pig shop and pigs are you're not being able to sell them enough, then start teaching yoga with pigs. But anyway, let's not go there. It's just more nice to kind of have a bit of laugh and do what we can do. So to really understand the roots or the history of yoga, I guess we need to begin with the humanity itself. And this is what one of the key yoga scripture talks about, that when the universe, if you think in a quantum science idea, we have the prana, we have the subtlest form of energy known as quantum. And then we have the dark space, the ether, the emptiness or voidness. And when that voidness, the darkness, the dark space comes in union, it resonates with the prana or the energy, the subtlest form of energy that exists. Everything evolves or manifests from that. And he said, before the humanity comes to existence, wisdom comes with it. And this is why in Indian culture, Indian traditions, we use the word Sanatan Dharma or Sanatan Yoga. It's the eternal wisdom that comes with the humanity, with the human mind, human consciousness. As simple as if you think of a simplest example of a seed. When a seed falls off a tree or a branch, it has all the wisdom, all the science, all the formulas it needs to sprout, to grow, and to evolve back into the tree. And I'm sure we all know that once it gets to the state of tree, to the end of its journey, producing the seed, and the cycle goes on and on. So in a very eternal concept, if I don't talk into the history in modern perspective, then it says the yogic wisdom, this life evolutionary process, lifestyle, it comes the moment or even before the humanity itself comes to existence. Or think of the tree, before the tree grows, the seed has all its wisdom. Otherwise, you might plant a tomato seed and it might come out with chilies, or maybe mangoes, or maybe figs or oranges, but it never does it? And I do kind of like that idea, because when I think that way, then it breaks our barriers of where does yoga come from? Should I practice it or not? Shall I take this wisdom? Shall I not take this wisdom? Is it religious? Is it non-religious? Because here we're talking about freedom. Well, the freedom does not really have any possession, does it? It belongs to everyone. Love does not have the boundaries. It belongs to everyone. Humanity does not have boundaries. It does not matter what color skin you're born, what country, what race, caste, or material life you are born into or you are given with the birth. As our Guru Swamiji, he always said, health and happiness and self-realization is each and every soul's, each and every life's birthright. The only trouble with that, you have to claim it. But again, coming back to the roots of yoga, the wisdom of yoga, the Vedic science says, even if you don't claim it, in a long evolutionary process, we will gradually evolve. Now this is where science is talking. We used to be animals, then we become monkeys, and through the monkeys, now we are walking on two legs as a human being. Our brain is evolving, but the only trouble in that process is very, very long process. It takes millions of years to grow into that higher intellectual wisdom where a cycle from the seed goes back to the end, the dissolution, where you find the beginning meets back to the end. So to understand the roots of yoga, to me we need to understand that the concept, the idea behind that human evolution. So the minute we take birth into the human consciousness, our highest desire is to be evolved, to be self-realized. We want to be free. We want to be free of our mental, emotional clutter. We want to be free of this cycle of going through suffering over and over again and again. Well, yogis dig deep down. Now, what modern science is doing really, to me, when I think of yoga as from the roots, really the yoga is the mother of all the sciences. It's actually the root of sciences. The only difference into the yogic and modern science is looking outward. We need guinea pigs to prove something. But like yoga says, you need to go inward. You need to talk to the source. You need to go back to the seed form and experience the truth. So in that way, yogis started to go inward to find out what's the purpose of life. And this is how, again, if we come back to the seed grows into what it meant to be, because it knows exactly what is the purpose of life. And if you think of what gets us away from that path is our mind, our ego, or that desire that manipulates our experiences. Now again, that's there for a reason. So please don't have a conflict like, the ego is not there, we should not have it. The mind is there, we should not have it. No, it has the purpose. Because the life cycles, the cycle of the universe is based on duality. As I said earlier, the prana, the subtlest form of energy is there, then the emptiness, the voidness or ether is there. When the two meet, they resonate. And when the resonation will begin, when the sound, the vibration begins, or when the two ends, the 2 points meet. So think of the mind, the ego, and this I-ness, it creates the duality. And what duality does? It manifests things. So in some ways, as long as we are into this human form, human life, as a household or to fulfill the purpose of life, we do need that duality, that two opposites of liking or disliking. Well, if there is a beginning, there has to be end. But what yogis did then in old ancient sort of Indian sort of culture, they found, okay, I don't want to wait for millions of years to experience that highest state of realization or my human evolution. And they started to dig deep down. And to me, when I think, I want to contemplate about the roots of yoga, I do want to contemplate from the very beginning of our humanity, very beginning of our mind, our consciousness. And as in yoga and Vedanta, we always say, this consciousness is always eternal. It's ever existing. So the wisdom is there, and this is, I believe, why we use the word Sanatan Dharma. Because each soul, each life is born with its own pure potential form that it needs to fulfill. And in some ways, I do believe, the animals are actually far more higher evolved than us human beings. Because they do fulfill their purpose to their absolute perfection unless someone like you and me trained them, put them in a cage or put them in a box in a different way. And even they have much more deeper and higher access to the pranic or these resonating energies. Their seeds can remain into the grass, into the land, into the desert for as long as it need to wait for the right opportunity to come back to life again. Now in that concept, then if you look into where does the yoga begin? Now I'm talking from a little bit from our modern concept or modern history, and I find talking about modern history of yoga or where we are looking at it, it's very hard to explain, because some ways we don't want to think beyond our knowledge or beyond our understanding. And on top of that, we all have that my knowledge, my wisdom, my understanding is always better than somebody else's. And I was listening in a conference, last year, and it's very interesting. This guy was talking about history or the roots of yoga, and he said, "Oh, yoga has nothing to do with India." And he produced its facts for that. And one of the arguments, I was like, "Oh, you kind of making sense." So the India is only begin from 1947, and we talk about yoga is thousands of years old. I'm like, "Oh, makes sense." So beginning a bit of history. Now what we talking here when we talk about the roots of yoga, we talking based on some written books or the written scriptures. Now if we talk about Patanjali itself, he is really the founder of Yoga Sutras. He was the one who why he really Patanjali did, some people say he was the father of yoga, but no, he can't be, because he collected the teachings from various scriptures. All he did, he put them all together in a very scientific, very practical and applicable way, so every human being can take them, and as long as you're happy to practice and apply them, it will lead you into your own self-realization. And historically, Patanjali might have existed somewhere between 180 to 500 year BC, so not very old history. But then the Vedic culture, as it says, it was an oral tradition. And still, most scriptures you read, it says that go and find a teacher, and the teacher will wait to see if you are good enough to learn it. Or sometimes, we can argue about when Bible was written. So the written of any scripture is not the real time where the teachings begin, is it? So somewhere, historically in Indian, some of the stories, Patanjali existed in that time. But what Patanjali really did, he codified or he collected all the teachings of yoga to bring it out of the religious context. He said to evolve, to grow spiritually, to be self-realized and enlightened, you don't have to actually believe in any form of religion. What you might need to actually do, you need to refine your own faith, your belief system, and become better and better in what you believe in. And this is the word he used for the divine, is Ishvara. And he clearly uses the word the Ishvara, the divine or the God, if you want to use that word. It's formless, it's timeless. It has nothing to do with what is happening. It has no pain or pleasure. It does not have the choices like we do. I like it, I don't like it. It's free from all that duality. For in that way, if you can live in equanimity, he says you are divine. And that is the purpose, the key purpose of your yoga, your following that yogic path, the yogic wisdom. You want to attain that divine purpose, so you become divine itself. And as Lord Krishna said, every soul in its own way is perfect, it's eternal. And to go back to the source where it begins, what we're doing, we're going through the experiences again. Think of the tree, it goes through every season, every year. It has the new leaves, leaves fall down, so we are doing the same thing. We have a body, and at some point, like the leaves, the body falls down, and we get the new leaves, we get new body. We're just changing it as an instrument or vehicle. Now, some ways, this is what I find very sad when I see the way the modern yoga is exploiting Hatha Yoga itself, because the vehicle has become more important than the soul or the journey itself. So if we go back and a bit more behind, before Patanjali, then we look at the Vedic texts or the Vedic teachings. When we go back to Bhagavad Gita, that sort of scripture again we believe existed somewhere between 500 and 2000 BC. But that's the way we're looking at the modern historical or the carbon dating of the scriptures written on either the branches, the leaves or the stones. But if you look at the Hindu calendar or the Hindu perspective, then I believe it can be a couple of millions years old teachings. And then as I come back to the concept I was saying that this Sanatan wisdom, eternal wisdom exists. Huh? Okay. So the eternal wisdom, this exists with the humanity comes to existence. So it might be even older than what we think. But somewhere, yes, in between that time, the Bhagavad Gita, the dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna was written, and really that's where he explains all the paths of yoga in one place. And as the Hindu scholars or the Hindu sort of yogis and masters explain, again Bhagavad Gita was the inclusive teachings of yoga from 6 or 7 different scriptures or traditions or the paths of yoga. He talks about Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion, he talks about Karma Yoga, yoga of action, he talks about Dhyana Yoga, yoga of meditation, Jnana Yoga, yoga of wisdom, Samadhi Yoga, he talks about Prana Yoga or the yoga of prana. So if you go back into the Vedas and Upanishads, then all these teachings are detailed into a bit more expansion. So in many ways, actually, without looking at 5 or 6 different yogic or the Hindu or the Indian scriptures, I think yoga is always incomplete. Because many practices Patanjali says about them or he mentions them, but he does not really say what you do with it. He says if you master ahimsa, non-violence, no one will harm you. Nothing will harm you. If you master asteya, non-stealing, all the jewels, the richness, the wealth will be with you. And this is where the yoga becomes esoteric or mystic, because you start to think, oh, I have mastered, I'm not stealing anything, but I've got millions in my bank account. But when you sort of switch over from what Patanjali mentions in the bullet point, then you go into the other Upanishads where the practices are explained. So, the concept of ahimsa, when you come to Bhagavad Gita, what Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, you are here, you are a warrior, and you must fight. You must fight to protect humanity. You must fight to protect the poor, the innocent people. You must fight to protect or look after kids and women. And he said that is your ahimsa, that is your non-violence. And this is what Patanjali does say, like these concepts, these principles have the 3-dimensional, 3 levels of your practice. So the one is, you don't harm somebody else, you don't steal, you don't lie, you don't manipulate. Second thing, you also do that same on yourself. It's kind of, I think personally, it's easy not to lie to other people. But the hardest practice is how not to lie to ourselves, how not to manipulate to ourselves. We all are amazing in being kind to other people, but how many times you can be actually kind to yourself? So the second level, second part is practicing them back on yourself. And I always ask people, if someone comes to you and say, I'm really sorry, yesterday I said something and I was absolutely stupid, can you please forgive me? And if they give you a card and flower, you in tears. But how many times you have done it to yourself to forgive yourself? I've known so many people that so love beating themselves up. So Patanjali says, don't harm, don't do wrong to other people, but also don't do wrong to yourself. And the third level, he says, don't allow other people to do it. So it is also your responsibility, your duty, your dharma to protect yourself. So you don't do wrong, you don't do wrong to other people, you don't do wrong to yourself, and you also don't allow that to happen if it is in your ability, your skills, your power to protect or prevent it. And this is what Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that karma is not only what you're doing. Obviously you are responsible for what you do, but he also says you're also responsible for what you're allowing to happen. And he said you're also responsible for things you could have prevented and you did not try to prevent it. So that's why Arjuna says, why do I fight? I can just run away and go and sit and meditate somewhere to be enlightened. I can be free, why do I have to do all this? He said, no, you become responsible for that too. If you see someone blind running to the river and you stand sitting there like, oh, it's their karma, let them fall into the river. Life must have a reason. He said, no. If someone you have the ability, you can prevent someone, stop them and say, hang on, you are going to fall off a cliff. Please don't do that. Or help them to turn around so they can walk somewhere else. That's all we need to do sometimes, isn't it? Like showing people, pointing them to the right direction. And to me, understanding the roots and this conceptual, this experiential practice, the path of yoga, we need to understand that. That I don't do it. I don't want to allow other people to do something wrong to myself either. So we're going back into these scriptures through Yoga Sutra, then we reflect into Bhagavad Gita, which is going a little bit more into the older time, the more ancient time, the ancient culture of India or the Hindu, the lifestyle that whole continent grew with. But as I mentioned again, the Bhagavad Gita is also the teachings, as Krishna mentions himself too. He said, I've given these teachings before this to thousands and thousands of times, over and over again and again, to different teachers, different people, as and when they needed it. And he said, first time you would have given it to Surya, the sun. Which again, I kind of think of it, he talking about that the wisdom is given to the seed. Oh, what is the seed of life? Is the light, the energy, the prana. He used the word Surya for that. So sometimes I do believe, the quantum science and the yogic science, they have the same roots. They're talking the same thing, but maybe in a different language. What we say in yoga, into the Sankhya philosophy, there is the force which is called Brahma, the creator. Then we have the force which is called Vishnu, the sustainer. And then we have the Shiva, which is the destroyer. So that sort of makes the whole cycle of life, the seed, from beginning to the end. Well, quantum science says, we don't believe in that, but we believe that for the atom, any molecule to exist, we have the proton, the neutron, and then the electron. So the proton brings the whole or manifests the atom. And then what neutron does, it keeps the electron and proton apart. And if you let them come together, let them collide, the nuclear energy. The one atom, they say, can be enough to destroy this whole place around where we are. This is how much potential energies we talk into the divine form. So sometimes I do wonder, the only difference between our modern science is the different names, different words. And I guess in old time, people used to find it a bit easier to say God or the divine. Now we don't like those words because someone else has done it, or we want to use new words. There's nothing wrong in that, is it? And even I think even my own evolution, when I think about it, in beginning I used to use the word God, but now I think maybe it's not appropriate word. We talk about divine, or sometimes I like to use the word consciousness itself, or the energy. Because life begins with energy, and where life will end? Back into energy where it begins. With some time, you and me might think it's the end, but it's not really end, is it? It's the opportunity for the new beginning. So this takes us a little bit more further back, as the Bhagavad Gita itself is a collection of teachings, the wisdom any human being needs to free themselves or to understand what we need to do or how we should make our choices to live a good life. And to me, I simply think that the Bhagavad Gita is a psychotherapy or the counseling every human being needs, a wisdom we need to understand how to live a good life. Concepts as simple as do your best and leave the rest. That's why it says yoga is skill in your action, karmesu kaushalam. So put your energy, your awareness, your wisdom into how can I do things better. But he said stop worrying about the fruit, because fruit is not in your power, is it? You can plant a seed, you can look after it. It's going to give you fruit or not, I don't know. I'm sure we are trying to put steroids and doing everything to manipulate that. But is it actually healthy? Is it bringing anything good? I'm sure we all are seeing the side effects now. That's why Krishna said, do your best, plant the seeds, look after them. Put your energy, your mindful, your skills, your wisdom in your actions, and let the fruits come to you. And he said, the only thing I can assure you, that if you do something, I promise you will always have the fruit. And it's something he explains into the next chapter, where he talks about Karma Yoga in further detail. Because in Karma Yoga, really, we all do our actions. And what is our action? It's the physical things we do, all the mental activities that are constantly going on, all our feelings, emotions, all that, he said, is part of your karma. So he said, you can never be free of doing something, because not doing is also doing. I know we like to say, the relaxation or having a sleep is doing nothing. But for your health and well-being, in that way, it is doing something. Or maybe you could have done something else in the time that we just spent in either going onto the Google or Facebook or all these modern things we do. So he said, not doing, it does not exist. If nothing else, you will be at least breathing. So to put yourself on the fast track of evolution, what he says, start to live your life mindfully and do everything consciously, knowingly. And this is, one of the simplest practice the most yogis talk about. Breathe in, breathe out, and know your breath. Oh, I don't think we do anything more than that every day, do we? Breathing. So if you can have the awareness to your breath, you are aware to everything. That's the subtlest activity. You like it or not, we do it. And in some ways, sometimes I do wonder why universe, the divine, made your breathing involuntary, unconscious. Because he knew that, or she knew that we're going to mess everything up. People will die every minute if their breathing will be in control, because we think, I had enough. So that the abhinivesa, that the instinct we have been born with to live. But the yogi said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do everything consciously. And this is why one of the common tool, the simplest tool in yoga we use, be aware, be mindful to your own breath, to every breath. Now in that route, thinking of Bhagavad Gita, then we talk into the other routes like the Karma Yoga from few different scriptures. It gives us something really simple but very profound. Everything he said you do, change it into your conscious choice. I know most of the time what we do, we're looking for, I did not do it, it just happened. Well, somewhere deep down we did make that choice for things to happen. Doesn't matter what state we are. And in Kapila, in Sankhya Yoga, obviously the student asks, oh, okay, I understand that idea, but how do I make a choice? Or how do I know what is right and wrong? This is another amazing thing with the roots, this combination of yogic teachings of wisdom gives you the tool for you to actually reflect what is right for you, because the concept of right and wrong is simply our perspective, isn't it? And what is right for us in 1 minute, or in next minute it can be not right anymore. And I always use a positive example. Let's say you invited your good friend for dinner. Your friend arrives and you welcome them and say, let's sit down, but just to let you know, we are fasting today or tonight. It's not going to go down very well, is it? Even though you can say the fasting is amazing, great for your health and well-being. Or you're driving down the motorway and suddenly you have the strong desire in you to be enlightened. Stop the car in middle and take your asana. I'm sure you all can do the great asana, maybe headstand or whatever you fancy. Say, I'm here to be enlightened. And this is what Kapila said, the choices are, one choice can be right, can be perfect in one moment, and next moment that can again be classified or known as that was not right thing to do. There is a moment where we should smile, there is a moment where we should be grieving for something. So your feelings, your emotions are also, you can't classify which feeling, which emotion is right and which is wrong. It depends. If there is a reason for that, then it's part of your healthy emotional well-being, isn't it? Think if your friend is trying to tell you a very sad story about what happened into their life and you're laughing there. Or they're telling you something amazing, the happy moment, and you start to cry. So Kapila says the right and concept of right and wrong is a perspective. Then how do you understand what is right and wrong in that moment? I said, ask yourself simple 3 questions. Number 1, the choice I'm making, am I happy to accept the consequences or accept the fruit? Thinking I should go and get a coffee, and it's 10 o'clock, just about to go to bed, thinking, is it the right thing to do or not? In the morning you might think, oh, the coffee is really good to wake you up, and then the last thing in the night you think, maybe not, I should have herbal tea so I can have a better sleep. So this is the first thing you ask yourself, am I happy to accept the consequences? Am I happy to take that responsibility? This is me, I get it, because of my choice, my action. Now he expands it further. He said, when we're talking about individual as a choice, we are never individual. He said we are collective. As we talk about the collective consciousness, collective humanity, collective choices. Just the choice you're going to make, the fruit is not only going to come to you, but it's also going to come to all the collective people that exist around you. Think you're just having a nice rest in your tent, and next door people, 2 o'clock in the morning, play a loud music. The person might think it's great, I'm enjoying it. So that choice will also influence people, those are living around you. Maybe your nearest family, your friends, your society, people who exist, people who care, people who mean, and then you can also expand it actually to the whole universe itself, our nature, our mother nature, the ecosystem. The choice we make is going to have impact on everything that is there. So he said, second thing you need to inquire, self-inquire is it going to bring positive change or harmony or peace between everything that I'm connected with. So suddenly think, no, I should not play loud music while everyone is trying to sleep. So you expanded your questioning, your choice into the much bigger picture, the universal existence. And from there he said, come back to the center. Well, center is still the seed, the soul, the Atman. He said, does it help you to grow? Does the choice you make, it helps you to grow healthy, be happy? As we said earlier, one of the key practice, the key concept of this whole root of yoga, the foundation of yoga is finding happiness, finding health. Does it actually help you to bring that happiness, that evolution, that realization? And so if you tick all three boxes, he said your choice can never be wrong. At least for that moment. And he literally said that at least for that moment it can't be wrong. And this is what Patanjali says, everything you do, every karma you do, back to the Yoga Sutra, he said, be aware to those deep down impressions, samskaras, the word he uses, from where the thought process, the desire, the energy in you that begins, that this is what I want. That wanting, that desire can be, I want to become rich, I want to get this job, I want to become a great yoga teacher, I want to be enlightened, I want to have some impact on bringing our ecosystem back to where it should be. So again, to me, when I look at some of the Yoga Sutras, it actually, the practices are very practical, not only for self-realization, but also to achieve success in everything you want to achieve in your life. The only thing he does kind of refine that what you want should be based on our humanistic, moral and ethical values. Because this whole life is based on duality, liking and disliking. And he does say we need to refine that. And it's another amazing thing, this whole yogic wisdom, this yogic lifestyle talks about. As you know, in modern time we think that being or following the yoga path means you have to suppress so many desires, your needs, you have to live a life away from many things. But really the Vedantic, the yogic wisdom says, no, you don't have to suppress your desires. What you do different is you start to find a much better, much healthier way to enjoy them. To me, this is why Patanjali begins with the 5 yamas and 5 niyamas, the moral and ethical values. That yes, I want to fulfill my biological needs, my physical, my mental, emotional needs, but can I fulfill them without causing harm, without stealing, without taking anything for granted, without accumulating or being possessive, clinging on to things? And then he puts the 5 niyamas, the 5 observances, that can I fulfill them with maintaining purity in my life, purity of my body, purity of my space, purity of my mind. And can I also be contented with what I have? So I'm not being greedy, constantly running around finding happiness, santosam. And tapas, he says, disciplined practice, austerity, don't wait. Do, take your action, get out and get what you want by doing things. Either studying, practicing or following the path. He said, do it. Don't wait, things not going to come to you. You got to go out and do. And in that doing moment, you need to have some sort of swadhyaya, self-reflective awareness. Knowing what you're doing and how does that interacting, causing the reaction. Because everything you do, it will have its own reaction, wouldn't it? Reaction of thoughts, reaction of feelings, the judgment, and the reaction, the ripple into the whole universal energy. He said, be aware to that. And the minute you become aware, you start to change things naturally. It's like, I think the day we go out and we come back in the morning and like I stayed awake until 3 in the morning and this is how I feel. The day you start reflecting into this is what the swadhyaya, the self-awareness is about. You think like, no, I'm not going to do it again. I should go to bed a little early. And then he said, then what you do, you offer your cause, your thoughts, your actions to the divine cause, the divine purpose. Ishwar prasadhanam. Or see your life as a divine blessing. There is a divine purpose in your life. Whatever situation you are, he says, you're not being punished. And I always use a very practical example. At the end of month, you get your credit card bill. It's not punishment, is it? It feels like, but it's not punishment. It's just the bank, the company is giving you, this is what you have done, my dear. Can you pay it back? And that's why Patanjali says, Ishwar prasadhanam. Your life is a perfect, divine opportunity for you to pay your bills. Sometimes it does not look very nice. Sometimes you feel like, why me? But I do personally find the minute you change your attitude and perception towards it, your life gets naturally lifted up. You feel like, I am actually happy to pay my bill. Let's do it, let's work for it. And this is why I said, see your life as a divine opportunity, a beautiful reason to be, to grow or to evolve. Okay, I guess we stopped again. He's just tingling with the stop.
No, I promise it was not me.
Yeah, no, it's fine. No, anyway, I think I will stop here because I can keep going on and on. But these are just like some simple ideas or concepts to understand the roots of yoga, and for me to really go into the whole detail, we need, I don't know, a couple of months of lectures to go through. But if anyone had any questions or anything, you can ask. I think we've got a few minutes and then we must leave the stage for the next person to walk in.
Where else do you do talks?
Where else do we talk? Oh, we run Yoga Satsanga Ashram, not very far from here. And we run yoga courses on 300, 500 hours, and then hopefully next year we're starting 1000 hour course, and in that we do include all these teachings as part of the training or our own self-development. Yeah.
Does your book, the Exploring Yoga Philosophy, go into more detail on this?
Yes, so this is just a little glimpse from that, yeah.
Can you remind me of the 3 things again?
Whatever choice you're making, am I happy to accept the consequences? I don't know why he does not use the fruit, okay? I'm just literally saying what he said. So you can also use the word if you want to add positive. Am I happy to accept the consequences or the fruit? Second, how does it affect or impact my collective being, so that you can think of your family, your friends, the whole society, the ecosystem. Doesn't matter how, it depends how big you want to think. You can think of whole solar system, whole universe. And then the last one, does it help me to evolve as individual spiritually? And if you're happy to take 3, he said that choice in that moment, again he said, in that moment will be perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he does say, as he goes into it, said everything is perfect in its own way, in its right time.
Even seemingly the wrong choices are part of that path to perfection.
Yes, it is, because when you made that, your choices will depend on the level of intellectual or evolutionary consciousness you're living in. So what is right? What is right is your own awareness, your own intellectual wisdom. So as a child, if you don't know what is right in that moment, then your choice you made, if you look at the choices we made when we were a child, when we were a teenager, and what choice we make now are completely different. So you can't judge your teenage time things or choices you made based on your intellect here and now.
So essentially there's no mistakes, only lessons.
No mistakes. But at the same time, please don't mistranslate it. It doesn't mean like it gives you the right to do what you like, okay? Because that's where the difficulty begins. Sometimes people are that's why they said, I do what I want to do. It's the right choice in the moment. But if you don't know, then it's a right choice in that moment, because that's what you thought is right.
Yeah.
And in some way, this is what Patanjali says, your life is a divine blessing. and everything that happened, you don't want to keep digging back into the past to punish yourself. You live your life here and now. And until you can see that divine purpose in it, you can't do that, can you? You're just constantly thinking, why did I do that? Or you did that in that moment for whatever reason it happened. So no, your choices are done based on your own intellectual level. But if you know it, that's where, in yoga it says, what is sin? It says sin is doing things that you know they are wrong. Or also sin, you know that there is something you should do as a right thing to do and you're not doing that. That's the only word sin being used into Sankhya Yoga twice. The things you know this is right for me to do and you're not doing that. And the things you know this is wrong to do and you're still doing that. He said that's the only twice he uses the word sin or the ku-karma, the bad karma, the bad choice. Otherwise he said no.
I would just suggest till you say consciousness level, just proofreading my husband rather than intellectual, because I don't want people to think you've got to have like 10 degrees or something to make the right choices. Do you know what I mean?
No, I don't. When I talk about intellectual, no, I don't mean like the degrees and maths and science. I'm more talking about the wisdom of life, wisdom of happiness, wisdom of health, wisdom of how to live your life. And for that, I don't. Sometimes maybe people who never been to school might live life better than people who are walking around with big degrees. So I don't think that makes any difference. So thank you, Deepika, for that. Thank you, and anyone fancy books? We've got the books.
Some of our books are for sale in the welcome tent if anyone's interested.